Georgie Bush will do it. Don't tell me the Senate will do it. Don't tell me that Lockheed Martin will do it or Exxon will do it. I have found that it's going to be us, the people. And you know what? Since we're all getting this gift from the government this week, let's pay it forward like the movie, and pay it forward to theorionproject.org. And if we get 5,000 of us that do that, we'll have the budget. We'll put this brain trust together. And I think that within 12 to 18 months, and maybe sooner, we'll have some really amazing technologies that can transform our world, and we will announce that there'll be no power on earth that will stop us. We've done this with the disclosureproject.org. No amount of money and no amount of threats will stop us from getting this out to the people and seeing that the people have a new and wondrous clean source of energy that they can then run their homes and eventually their cars on, and we can have a civilization on earth that is not only clean and not harming the earth, but begins to be just. You know, one of the big problems, as I see it, is that there's no way we're going to have peace in the world. Where can we have peace in the world when you have a system, a zero-sum game of energy and money, where 80% of the world has to be in poverty for the other 20% to live of driving their cars and living in air-conditioned and heated homes? I mean, you just can't have a world like that, because if you do, eventually there's going to be the have and the have-nots clashing. And I think that there's no way for there to be peace without justice, and there's no way for there to be justice with the current power and economic system that is based on oil, gas, and coal and centralized utilities. It all is a very direct line. And this is why not only developing these technologies, but getting them out to the public and disclosing them and recruiting the help of everyone listening. We need everyone's help to do this. There's no way that Dr. Loder and I can do this by ourselves or even with a small team of people. We need everyone putting their shoulder to the wheel on this, because this is the big one. This is the big transition that has to happen to create the foundation for a sustainable and just and peaceful civilization on Earth that then can be here for thousands of years. And I think we're at that point. We're the generation that have that as our sacred obligation and responsibility. Every single person who's alive today has that as the responsibility. And I'm certain we can do it. I mean, I would not have given up my medical career if I didn't think this was completely attainable. And I know it is. And, you know, Ted, of course, you've made enormous sacrifices to do this, which I very much appreciate, and we have many other people. But now it's time for us to ask the public to do so, and that's why we've started this nonprofit, this tax-deductible nonprofit group, and people need to go to the orionproject.org, ORG, because it's a nonprofit, and see what we're doing and help us. And if a lot of small streams together, we can, you know, begin to be this mighty river that moves this project along. And I think we need to collect many, many little rivulets and streams that then begin to make this torrent of power that brings this knowledge and these new technologies to the earth. And one of the goals of the Orion Project is to eventually see that these technologies are gifted to the poor areas of the planet, the areas that are developing where people are living on less than $2 a day, which is almost half the world's population, where they can then begin to have clean water and sanitation and everything like this without having any pollution and without having to put in a multi-trillion-dollar coal or oil-fired electric network like we have in the West. So this is something that we can do, and it's an enormous undertaking, but its transformative effect is, on the one hand, people think of it as a very material thing we're talking about. It's really a very spiritual and sacred obligation for us to take care of the planet, but to take care of the rest of humanity.
Absolutely.
And that's what these breakthroughs can do when they're in the hands of good people. The people. Most people are very good people. It's only a few people who become these insanely greedy, violent, nutty people. But most people are wonderful people, as you know. And so we need to collect those folks all together and have this technology supported. And I think that once people understand and get educated, Ted, you've done a great job of putting at the orionproject.org some of the history and scientific material that people can go to and read to see what we're doing.
Right.
And once people understand that, I think they'll support it.
Let me pop in here with a thought before we talk about some of the actual technologies, and that's to take your theme of transformative ideas for global society. There's an impact of what we're doing that is perhaps more subtle or missed by people who just haven't thought about it seriously, and it's the following. Right now, on this planet, I think most people who are awake at all are very aware that we have an energy problem and a problem with our energy and the cost of the energy and the availability of energy for the different peoples of the planet. One of the things that will happen now, once we have a technology, it may take as much as 10 to 20 years for that technology to be broadly accepted and broadly used. So it ultimately does make an impact on our oil usage and our CO2 effluent into the atmosphere. It's going to take a while. This will not happen overnight. I mean, even if I came to you tomorrow and said, hey, I've got a technology that will run your car forever on zero-point energy, Detroit and the rest of the car companies, not so much Detroit these days, make on the order of, in the United States, 20 million plus or minus cars a year, and there's almost 250 million or more cars in the United States. Well, to replace those cars with a new technology would take a minimum of 10 years, probably more likely 15. So it's going to take a while to do that. But if we have a technology that people would say, oh my gosh, we will be able to change the way we use fossil fuels and get off this thing, it will create a buzz and what I call the hope factor. In other words, people will see that there is a pathway out of our non-sustainable, dead-end civilization in terms of our energy technologies. And just creating that hope, even though you can't go down in the store and buy one today, but showing people that there is an alternative way to do things and that the civilization on this planet is not terminal if we have these technologies.
That's right, and people need to understand this is
major hope for the people of this planet.
Oh yeah, and for everyone all over the world to see that where there's a way out of this conundrum, and there is, and that's why this is a message of great hope, and the vision is one that's very hopeful, and and to give people just a real tangible example of this, I've worked for some time and have visited the laboratories of a brilliant physicist who was being funded by one of our military installations to do some of this work. And he had actually worked out the equations and built prototypes that were able to create a sort of anti-gravity lift effect from various voltages and resonance frequencies. And, in fact, what he had, I was told, began to equal the knowledge that was at Lockheed Skunk Works, where they have these things that look like flying saucers flying around. And it turns out that the colonel that had provided the funding to this was visited by some folks when this man became successful and was told to defund the project because it was too successful. Now, this is counterintuitive. Most people think, oh, gee, eureka. But it turned out that they didn't want this other group to know this science. And so they took the funding and stopped it. And so this colonel and the inventor have both met with me to say, look, if you can put the team together, we'll work with you in getting this out there through your group, through the orionproject.org. Now, what's interesting is that, that might be the end of the story, except the most eminent laboratory within the United States government also got the same information from the same inventor, and independently, without him doing it, recreated this device, and it worked. And I have met with the senior-most scientist in the U.S. government that deals with this, and he says, yes, we have all of this, and it's sitting in a vault. Now, here are the taxpayers, and he told me that once they reproduced it and they had these things floating and flying around a hangar, and by the way, this system can be turned into an energy generation system very easily within a 12 to 18-month period, he said their funding was pulled. and canceled because there was a compartmented secret group that already had this stuff that didn't want anyone else to have it. And so the white hats in the government and even in the military who want to bring this stuff out keep having their